Welcome to the Freaky Fauna Files podcast. Wherever you are and whatever you are doing, we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us and listen to what we have to say. We're your hosts, the chicken
and the egg,
where you never know who comes first.
Hey, I'm the egg and I'm going to go first today. You know the drill. Follow us on social media at Freaky Fauna Files and send us any questions or stories you have for our next Audience Asked episode.
Whoop.
So I said I'm going to be going first today.
Yes,
we have permission from each of our question askers to share their names. The first one is Miss Jennifer from Houston. What is the oldest animal in the world and how did it get to be so old? I had a really good time researching this because apparently a lot of animals live to be really old and there's just no reason for them to be that old, you know?
I feel like tortoises would be the first one that I would think.
Well, let me tell you, before I get to the oldest animal, I will discuss some runner-ups.
Let's do it.
So first we have our 95-year-old friend from episode 10. That was going to be the last Audience Ask episode that we did. The Australian lungfish, 95 years old.
Woo! They're super cool.
Yeah.
They're super cool.
And the tortoise comes in. Jonathan the giant tortoise lived to be 191 years old.
Ooh, hell yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he was the one that single-handedly saved his species by mating with so many females.
I heard about him.
Yeah.
I heard about him. Don't we have, like, a successor, or successor? Or whatever the fuck
his kid?
to him? Yeah.
I'm sure you do. A clam was found to be 507 years old. And guess how it died?
In the middle of mating.
They cracked it open to see how old it was.
For real?
Yes. And they killed it.
Oh.
507 years old. Right then and there. Just.
Wow.
Yep. And a saltwater crocodile, flashback to episode 14, we talked about the Everglades. He lived to be 120 years old. I did not know crocodiles could get that old.
I don't want to meet a 120-year-old crocodile.
No,
Not
really
only do they live old, but their lineage is fucking ancient. Mm-hmm. The dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. So, the oldest animal in the world belongs to sponges and corals, but I think that's cheating because that's the most, like, basal...
Well, we talked about them a little bit when we were talking about the ctenophores in the bioluminescence episode.
Yeah, I think that's cheating because they, never die.
I mean, they count, but they, don't count.
Yeah. Okay, so...
Yeah, so we're gonna move...
This...
More recognizable animal.
Yeah. The answer to my question...
More advanced animal.
Yeah, is the Greenland shark.
Ooh.
And the most...
Pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm. The oldest one was 392. So, based on genetic data, they can live to be up to 500 years old. So just imagine you're around in the 1500s. Freaking Christopher Columbus comes around. He's exploring the world. You watch the world go from Christopher Columbus, 1600, 1700, 18, 19, 2000s. You just watch the modern world develop. And you're just a shark vibing in the ocean.
What do you even do?
I can tell you. They swim very, very slowly in very, very cold water. And the cold water kind of helps slow down their metabolism. It's similar to when animals hibernate. You know, you go into such a slow state of living
everything slows down.
You might as well live for 400 years.
Yeah. I just looked it up. To put in perspective, 392 years ago from today.
Oh, what were we doing?
It was a Wednesday, February. Well, this said 2nd, but we'll say February 4th, 1633.
Ew,
I know. What's even...
That's
before the colonies.
When did the colonies come?
1607 was Jamestown.
Oh, well, that's literally what I just asked you, and you knew the date.
Sorry, it had to come out. It had to come out.
That's what I was asking. Okay, so let's just pretend that it adds up.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
so he's been around since
when Home Dog was born, Jamestown was founded, and we're smoking tobacco and eating our relatives because we're starving.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
and people go missing. Mm-hmm. Cool story.
Yeah,
cool story.
So notable facts about the Greenland shark. They reach sexual maturity, which is the age at which they can mate, at 150 You have to vibe for 150 years old before you're even considered an adult.
What does time even feel like for them, dude?
Don't
Like,
know.
they're just floating most of the time to where, like, 150 years have to pass by.
Anyways, so the Greenland shark reaches lengths of 21 feet or 6.5 meters. I know.
How many trucks?
1.5. 1.5 pickup trucks or 1 school bus. American units. They weigh 1 ton, 2,000 pounds, or 1,000 kilograms. Guess how long they're pregnant for. If I reach sexual maturity at 150, guess how long I'm going to be pregnant for.
Okay, I don't know if you're trying to trick me.
Go ahead.
Okay, elephants are 22 months. We're 9. Can I say 35 years? I'm getting months.
Well, you're on the right track. 10 to 18 years.
Oh, fuck.
It's cooking.
Oh, wait, how many is 30? Wait, that's only 3 years. 35 months is only 3 years.
A decade or 2 pregnant that you're cooking this shark.
Okay, wait, how many do they get? How many do you get? How many comes out of a litter?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, bitch. You know it. You know the answer. She is searching her brain right now.
Oh, up to 10 pups in a litter. Okay, so I guess you're cooking for 10 years to make 10 babies, so that's really only like a year each, right? Or 2, if you...
I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean, it takes us
I've never heard of such a large animal having that many offspring in one time.
I would say that's
Sharks
very
and
valid.
whales typically only have, like, 1,
Yeah.
2.
I would say at best. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I wonder what the survival rate is
I don't know.
of the Greenland sharks. Here, hold on. We can find that out.
Okay, so they're native to the northern Atlantic Ocean, hence the name, the Atlantic green shark. The Atlantic Ocean is really, really cold and really, really slow, so they just don't move, and the cold slows down the metabolism. Like I said, you have an answer?
It says not much is known, which makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Their meat is toxic to consume due to high levels of trimethylene in oxide.
Oh, TMAO?
Mm-hmm,
That's what's in pufferfish.
Oh.
Yeah.
We are sitting next
Fun
to...
fact.
How many pufferfish are we sitting next to right now?
10.
10 pufferfish.
Yes, we have counted. There are
10
still
Tinos.
10. Yeah, but they're babies. No, that's why it's a delicacy in Japan.
Well, if you would shut your freaking mouth, you can chemically treat the meat to be eaten, and it is a delicacy in Iceland.
The Greenland shark is specifically?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And to make them even...
Iceland?
Iceland.
Okay.
To make them even creepier, a bioluminescent copepod sometimes parasitically eats their eyeballs, so their eyes glow in the dark.
Oh, is that why in the photos of them you always see their eyes like...
You always see like this murky green water and then the most like creepy yellow glowing eyes.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like when you put the flashlight or like just the flash on like your dog's eyes or something like that. You're just like,
Ew.
whoa.
So their eyes don't really work the best, regardless of the parasites. They just have poor eyesight. Eyesight is not too useful in murky
ocean,
waters.
yeah.
So we rely on hearing and smell. Did you know they can do a rolling movement with their jaw from front to back to grind their food instead of chomping it?
What the fuck do you mean by rolling movement?
Have you ever seen a goat or a horse eat? Like, you just grind the cud? That's what Home Dog's doing.
Okay, I pictured it as revolving jaws. Like,
what,
so,
like a
like
chainsaw?
just like...
Ew, no.
Yeah, just like the cycles. Not like a chainsaw. I would say like a blender. Like
Circular,
a blender.
yeah.
It would just like... That's what I pictured when you were like revolving jaws.
They
But that makes
eat
sense.
shark, rays, eels, seals, most fish, moose. What's the plural of moose? Meese. Polar bears and reindeers that fall in the water. So they eat anything that's in the water.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So some of our listeners may be like, Moose, what the fuck? It's a running gag that you could be diving down in the water and you see a
just run
freaking
into a moose?
moose and then you see an orca just dominate that moose because again,
Well, they don't probably move very
orca
fast.
killing moose. Yes.
Oh.
Orca hunting moose, an unbelievable yet true phenomenon.
Yikes.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Oh, I wish we would have covered that in the Antarctica episode. We need to do orcas part 2.
That's crazy.
Orcas part 2.
Yeah, that's about all I have for the Greenland shark, other than they have an antifreeze protein that helps them live so deep and so cold. So, moral of the story, if you want to live a long, happy life, you gotta slow down and enjoy the ride. And maybe you'll live to be 400.
Yeah, I wish we could move that slow.
I don't want to live to be 400. Take me out at like 74.
I agree. I feel like the yearning to be immortal. You know that billionaire?
Yeah, who spent all that money and he
Have you
still
seen that
looks
documentary?
Like, yes.
It's actually quite good.
It was cool.
It was cool. I recommend that documentary.
Yeah.
I feel I can understand it, but no, I agree with you. Take me out. Don't let me live to 400. I don't want to. Maybe freeze me and like let 400 years pass and like let me unfreeze.
That could be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down for that, but I'm not down for living the whole time. Not about it. Not about it. Well, we're talking about living for a long time, and that's actually a perfect segue into my question.
Okay.
So we have Miss Hallie from Oregon, and she asks, what is the perfect life form, and why is it a crab?
Oh, she answered for you.
Yes, yes.
Why is it a crab?
So I'm going to expand on this question more and explain why crustaceans in general are the perfect life forms. So to begin, there's this continuous meme going around, and I don't know if you've seen them on the reels or anything like that, of how everybody is going to turn into a crab. Everybody.
I did
Like,
not.
humans are going to turn into a crab. Dogs are going to turn into a crab. Your mom is going to turn into a crab. Everything you know is going to turn into some type of crustacean. And this seems super goofy, like one of those far out conspiracy theories, but there's science backing it.
For us all to converge to the same life form?
Yeah, like so much so that scientists have termed this exact process as carcinization, which is a form of convergent evolution.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. In which non-crab crustaceans are evolving a crab-like body plan. So we're already seeing this in the natural world, that they're like, screw a squishy body. We have seen this particularly with king crabs, porcelain crabs, hairy stone crabs, and the coconut crabs, all of which have evolved into more of a crab-like form. So they didn't originally start out looking as crabby as they did. They just eventually started to evolve into that. But why turn into a crab? You may be asking yourself.
I am.
Yeah, because I am asking myself. Well, carcinization is typically associated with a lowered center of gravity, which allows easy peasy sideways walking. So you can just like, could you imagine just humans skittering about?
No, I hate that.
Like crabs, like
all our little hands everywhere.
Hands being up in crab form have to be a must. We have to, and like the knees have to be slightly bent at the same time. That's wild. But this benefit at the end of the day is really good for evading predators. So if we were living in a time where we walked outside and there were like wolves ready for us.
The Galveston Red Wolves are still ready for me.
They are. Actually, I just heard some good news about that. So the ghost wolves, the red wolves, back to our quaint Galveston episode. They just got $2.1 million in funding to continue researching them.
Wow.
And protect them. Yeah. And it was like a
yay.
huge thing that a lot of locals were fighting for. So we won. Yeah. Which is
Yay.
a little win. Back to it. So it allows you to evade. So that's part of the reason why a lot of these creatures are starting to turn into a crab. Is because they're like, well, this is easy. And it's cool. Carcinization is cool, but it's not quite what makes crabs perfect, right? That's the question, right? Why are crabs the most
ultimate
perfect life form?
And why is it a crab?
Why is it a crab? So, crustaceans, specifically lobsters, actually, are essentially immortal. Lobsters and a lot of crustaceans are essentially immortal.
Well, that goes with my sponges, the cnidarians. You know, jellyfish are immortal, quote unquote. Your sponges.
They can go, yeah, that's more. I know cnidarians are immortal because they can revert back. Mm-hmm. And I think that's only the immortal jellyfish, but they can revert back to the polyp stage.
So what, lobsters are actually immortal?
Yes, yeah. And they are immortal in the sense that they are continuing to molt and grow throughout their entire lives. So molting is a shedding of skin. So snakes do it. You can see a lot of other reptiles do it. But lobsters and crustaceans, they will also molt their skin and they will grow. And they will continue to molt and grow and molt and grow and molt and grow and molt and grow until something stops it. There is nothing in a crustacean's genes that tells them to stop growing. And I'll explain that further. So, one, crustaceans, lobsters, they'll continue to molt and grow, with some living up to 120 to 140 years.
Whoa.
That we have found. Right? So there may be some that are in crevices that we don't even know about, that are way older, like the big granddaddy lobster.
How big are we talking? Am I going to see a lobster like the size of a car?
The size of a car, no, but easily I would say 3 to 5 feet. Ew. Because I have seen some lobsters just diving in the Caribbean where they're massive. Like, they're easily bigger than my forearm, the body of it. We're not even talking the tentacles that reach out. Or I guess it wouldn't be the antenna.
Yeah.
That pop out.
That I would need a lot of butter.
Yeah, it would need a lot of butter. Yeah. Well, and you know, lobster regulation, you can only kill within a certain age. So you can't kill them too young and you can't kill them too old either. You want to keep the old ones. Because, I guess, I don't know, respect your elders.
Sure.
That's what it is. Okay, so what ends this molting process is that either a predator comes in and yoinks them and kills them, or they straight up die from the exhaustion of molting.
Oh, wow.
So they get so big that they literally cannot spend the energy needed to shed their skin.
It's like you can't eat fast enough to sustain the energy you're spending to
Exactly. So you're at such a deficit while trying to get your skin off that you just die throughout the process. So that's how they die. Like, if it was not for that exhaustion, they would be completely immortal. They would continue to molt, continue to grow. Who knows, maybe in the Mariana Trench there is a 20-foot lobster.
Pickup truck size
lobster? Why is there no movie made of this?
Yeah.
You know? So it's just crazy.
Oh my god, wait. Lobster truck.
Lobster truck versus mecha shark or whatever.
Yeah, the Megalodon Sharknado.
Yeah. We'll tap into that series. Have Godzilla make a cameo. Yeah, so lobsters are incredible because they have something to do, or they have something we do not have, and it's really a way to stop the biological clock. So realistically, anything could keep repairing itself, right? We've talked about regeneration, right? Like with axolotls and other species that are able to regenerate. We've talked about the human potential to regenerate.
Fingertips, fingernails, hair. I mean, certain things do regenerate. We just lost the ability in others, right?
Exactly, yeah. And like our scar tissue, that could play a role. We also have telomeres. Okay, and telomeres is something that you may have heard about in your biology class, may not, but that's why you're here. But telomeres are basically the reason why our cells stop functioning in humans. And with lobsters, they have a way to stop this biological clock. So to be more specific, telomeres are little caps at the ends of our DNA, so you can think like an aglet or like an egglet, so the tip of a shoelace. So it just kind of caps our DNA. And anytime our cells divide, these telomeres end up getting shorter and shorter, which results in our cells not being able to function properly or divide anymore. This is our biological clock. So that's what I mean by it just kind of wears out over time. It's just done. Lobsters do not have to worry about their telomeres degrading because they have this magical enzyme called telomerase that can actually restore the length of the telomeres, therefore increasing the max amount of divisions a cell can make.
You would think that humans have that because the telomeres are really just those trimethylene tails, right?
Yeah,
So
they're at
you
the
would
end,
think
yeah.
we would develop an enzyme to put more adenosine on the ends.
Yeah, I have no idea why we have not developed telomerase or why we have not done something, because we know about this actively.
Yeah.
You know, like I wish this was not a Q&A and this was a biomedical or a safe zone, because we could dive in, because I'm sure someone has to be looking at that. I mean, humans are obsessed with immortality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like,
get
we're
home
trying
the
to live
billionaire
forever.
fund that.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, have you met the lobster?
Yeah, I'm sure he would be happy to feast.
Yeah. Unfortunately for humans, we only have telomerase in certain cells. So we do have telomerase. We do have the ability to stop this. However, it is in stem cells, or it's kind of like our stem cells.
That makes
So
sense.
we are ultimately unable to become immortal because it's not in all of our cells. It's basically in our blank slate cells.
Womp
It's in our baby
womp.
cells.
No immortality.
To end this question up, the crabs and lobsters, just crustaceans in general, are ultimately the perfect creatures because they are basically immortal. They live forever, and other animals have so much FOMO that carcinization has become a scientific phenomenon. Like, it is a thing. Like, it is, like, you can find papers about it if you would like to. DM us, and I would be more than happy to share the research with you.
I could be a crab. I could be a good crab. You know, like just skitter around,
Would
fight
you
you off with
be-
my claws.
Would you be a tide
bubbler
pool
crab. I
Would
would-
you
no,
be
I
a
would be
tide
bubbler
pool
crab.
crab? Would you be like a coral reef crab, or would you be like a deep abyss crab, or like
I-
a sulfur crab by the hydrothermal
Oh,
vents? What
I
crab?
would either be the shoreline crab called the bubbler, where I just sift through sand and make sandcastles all day, or I would be a sulfur vent where nobody can touch me because I live in thermally hot,
Yeah.
boiling
Yeah,
lava, and then
I
I'm like, this is spicy water.
I agree. I think I would be the pom-pom crab.
Mm,
Have you seen those pictures of them? And they're like dancing around. They have like little sponges and corals that they're just like, I take you.
This is mine now.
And it's even funnier that you know that sponges are and like corals are kind of like living creatures.
Yeah, you're like, oh, well.
So it's another living creature taking something and be like, you're my decoration.
I was about to say, what about the decorated crab?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this, and this, and this.
It's like us with plants.
yeah, you're mine, and you're mine.
You're mine? Okay, all right, we digress.
All right. My last question of the day is from Tanner from Oklahoma. How do medical dogs work? You're telling me they can just smell that my blood sugar's low or that my anxiety attack is coming on?
Oh, good question.
The short answer is yes. A dog can smell when these things are happening. The long answer is the long answer. So, whether a dog is trained...
Like too long for this episode?
No, I'm going to tell you about it.
Oh,
but
okay,
that's my long
okay,
answer.
Okay.
So dogs can be trained to detect anything from blood sugar, anxiety, seizures, and even cancer. And yes, it boils down to mostly their sense of smell. And I'll get into what I mean by mostly.
Okay.
Dogs' sense of smell is anywhere from 10,000 to 100 times stronger than humans. So dogs, as well as many mammals, reptiles, and amphibians, have this thing called the Jacobson's organ,
I've
which
heard of that.
has been lost in humans for the most part. But it's an organ dedicated to detecting and categorizing chemical cues around you. And you've probably heard of pheromones. I did not necessarily know what a pheromone meant, other than it's something that's secreted. Like, what's a pheromone? What's a hormone? So a pheromone is an external secretion that
secretion.
that can trigger a behavioral or a hormonal response. So you can find pheromones in your armpits, your urine, your saliva, and your breath.
Okay, this may be TMI. Speaking of pheromones in the armpits, so I have noticed because of my new cat, she really likes my armpits. And it's almost like giving her catnip.
Really?
Yeah, to where like she's like
all up in your armpit.
She's like rubbing like her head, and you know how their head is like their scent place, like that's their sacred
she's like, you
place.
stank, and I want to smell like you.
Yes. It's also why cats go to shoes a lot of the times is because they like the sweat. And I think that sweat and pheromones to me are synonymous because I feel like so much comes out of sweat. Yeah, but weird tangent. But speaking of pheromones, I feel like they're picking up on my pheromones.
Well, maybe she is.
Oh,
so yeah, when your
what
body
am I putting down?
She's picking it up.
Yeah, apparently.
When your body is going through a stressful situation, it can lead to a hormone getting released by that pheromone. It's like a cause and effect. So let's go with the low blood sugar example. When your blood sugar is decreasing, your body releases a hormone called glucagon, which signals your liver to break down your stored glucose to get those levels back up. A consequence of getting low glucose levels is increased isoprene levels. Isoprene is a chemical that is odorous, like able to be smelled by dogs.
Isoprene?
Isoprene,
I feel like I've heard of glucose, obviously, glucagon, but isoprene is a new one for me.
Yeah. So isoprene is a level that can be smelled in your breath. So even though you feel fine, your medical dog could be sitting next to you, and while you're breathing just normally, they can keep track of your levels of glucose, and when it gets too low, he's going to boop you and be like, you're in trouble.
So it's partially from breath? Or like our oral?
Yeah, I mean, whether this particular one is in the breath, I'll get to where these dogs smell other indicators, but for the blood sugar one, yes, they smell your breath. So, yeah, another example is dogs can sniff out cancer, which I think is insane.
Yeah, that's wild.
So it's less of a quick onset, like, over the next couple of minutes if your blood sugar gets low. Obviously, you're developing cancer at a slower rate, so how could they smell that? The answer is volatile organic chemicals, or VOCs.
Oh, it even has an acronym.
Oh, yeah. VOCs by themselves is just a blanket term for a type of compound, but the VOCs that cancer cells leave behind is very specific, very harmful, right? So here's a list of how these certain cancers can be detected by medical dogs. So breast cancer and lung cancer can be detected by breath, just like the low blood sugar.
That's so wild.
Breast cancer, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, lung cancer kind of makes sense.
Yeah, lung cancer, but breast?
Breast cancer can be smelled in your breath. Bladder and prostate cancer can be sniffed from the urine. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Colorectal cancer can be smelled from your breath or from stool samples. One makes sense, the other does not.
Yeah.
Ovarian tumors can be sniffed from blood samples. And skin, this is my favorite, skin cancer can be detected by licking the area.
No. For real? So, like, what if your dog's, like, licking an area too much? Is that...
Well, no. They have to be trained.
Out by the dermy?
So, yeah, obviously you would need a medical dog that is trained to know what they're looking for. Neener beaners can't just lick you and be like, Mother, that is a cancerous melanoma. So...
imagine the training process. Do you just put like cancer on someone and just be like how do they?
I read an article. I got my information from
like that could be some animal. We should question that a little.
A lady goes in the dermatologist and she's concerned about a mole, and so it's an obvious discoloration. So the dog licks it and he's like, yeah, that's cancer.
Could you imagine?
No.
Also, I would much rather a dog lick me and that be my diagnosis versus them take a sample
Yeah, running all these tests
and
on
then
you.
run a test. Yeah, me have to give blood or all that stuff, or just like the time that it takes. Like, give me that immediate response. Like, yes, dog, lick me,
Tell me the news.
Tell me that I have cancer.
Give it to me. So yeah, dogs will focus on any like differences from what humans normally smell like. They look for that stress response, and they can indicate whether or not you're a little bit off. And fun fact, there is no application, no official organization, or no set training regimen that can certify your dog to be a medical dog. It doesn't even have to be a dog. You could be a horse, a lizard, or a bird.
Oh, I've seen people doing it with their cats recently.
Yeah,
we talked about cats.
The only thing you need is a medical diagnosis stating that you could benefit from an animal aid and a certain number of training hours, which I tried to find a set number, and each website said a different thing. So I was like, okay, there's really not anything.
What were the general numbers that you were looking
Anywhere
at?
from like 50 to 120 hours.
I was about to say 120 would be,
yeah,
I would think. That's like a degree. That's a bachelor's degree right there. 120 hours.
That puppy earned it. 120 hours of licking somebody's moles. Like, tell me I didn't earn this degree.
Licking cancer or non-cancer cells.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, thanks Tanner.
Yeah, shout out to service animals.
That too.
I've seen some incredible videos of the training process that it takes, especially the dogs that are trained to sense seizures about to come on. I feel like when they're like, I've seen the videos where they're like, oh, I'm in Walmart, you know.
And he boops you and you gotta like sit down in the middle of the aisle.
Yeah. Well, and you know, you never know how much is like actual and how much is not. But regardless, I think it's still pointing out, or it's still shining a light on a very good thing, and that's medical dogs, or just medical animals in general, because again, it's not just dogs. So yeah, good question, and a very heartwarming question, I feel like. Okay, so we're gonna end this with a question from Mr. Chris from the League City area.
All right.
And he asks, do you think humans have halted our evolution due to all of our medical advancements?
We playing God over here? We switching up humans?
I don't know. How far is too far, right?
Good question.
So this question is great, and I do think about this a lot, right? The balance, the balance between survival of the fittest and the balance between
I can save you.
Technology.
You don't have to be the fittest.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but at what point does it help, or at what point does it harm? So there's a lot of different answers, and I think it lends itself more to a conversation than a simple yes or no.
Okay.
So a key thing to keep in mind, I think, with this question is that an adaptation does not always equal evolution. So like whenever you adapt to something, or whatever an animal adapts, that's not necessarily evolving. Okay, adaptation is just adjusting to better match your environment or situation, and evolution, it's referring more to a change over time. So it's like a change in your genes. Like, stuff is altering. It's not just you're changing. It's like you have changed to where your genes have changed, and your kids are going to change, and your kids are going to continue to change. And that's kind of where evolution comes in. So I think that's important to keep in perspective with this question, is that we're talking evolution, which is change over time, versus adaptation. Of course, I think all humans are adapting, right? Like if I move up north, I'm going to adapt to the cold.
Yeah.
If someone moves down south, they're going to adapt to that. Like everybody has that. Like our skin will get darker, our skin will get lighter. You know, we'll just have a better cold or heat tolerance. Personally, I believe the answer is both yes and no. Right? Whoever is fit to survive will survive. So that's kind of where my yes comes in. My no comes in is that I think we've just kind of adjusted what it means to survive.
Okay.
So technology and medical advancements may have hindered our species' ability to evolve further. And that's where that's coming from, because it has removed a lot of the natural environmental stressors needed to cause this evolution, cause this adaptation, right? Say we're hunter-gatherers, right? And there's a big environmental change, right? You're gonna have to evolve. You're gonna do that, right? Or if someone gets sick, you're going to have to evolve and learn how to not be sick. But now we have these technological advancements where we can fix you being sick, or if you break a bone, we can fix you breaking a bone. One of the first signs of civilization, right, was a fixed femur.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is crazy in and of itself, because the amount of time it takes for a bone to heal.
When you have, like, nothing to work with.
Nothing to work with takes a while. So that means that civilization was evolved enough to allow it to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think technology has been great because it's removed a lot of that pressure needed to cause that evolution. But I think it also has allowed some unfavorable mutations to pass on, like cancer.
So you're telling me my mole-licking dogs are preventing humans from evolving into crabs? That's all I'm hearing right now.
Some scientists do agree, some do not. The ones who do oppose have the belief that human culture is enough of a selective force to not only drive human evolution, but accelerate it.
Human culture?
Yeah. Okay, so they're kind of taking it on the flip side, all right? So that was kind of dark. What I mean by human culture is that, like, the general pressures that we are experiencing in society is enough to cause us to have to adapt. So it's just like all of the general pressures that we are experiencing on a day-to-day, whether it be from, work or just new environmental pressures. Like, we're still having to adapt even in the modern world.
So we're
That's
still
kind of what they're
evolving,
saying.
just not as, like, physically demanding as the natural world would have changed us,
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and it's not like we're growing a tail.
Yeah.
Right? We're
talking about, like...
Yeah, we're not having to evolve in the sense that we're having to make these great leaps in anatomy or physiology or anything like that. But we do see people like the Bajau that have adapted to hold their breaths for a really long time. And so this is a group of people that have to rely on fishing for their diets. And so they have to learn how to free dive and learn how to dive for really long times. And now everybody in that lineage has grown to adapt to where their spleens are different, their lungs are different, to where everything is different in order to allow them to dive deeper and longer in order to survive, right? So that's an argument for evolution. We also see that we have Inuits adapting a fat-rich diet. So they're having to eat blubber, right? They're having to eat whale carcasses and all of these different things. And if we ate that same amount of fat, our body would be like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. And, like, we would shit ourselves, essentially. So Inuits have adapted that. There's also, like, the Tibetan. Either way. And they have adapted high altitude living. So and you can even say this for people who live in, like, Colorado, right? Yeah. Like, you're adapting to that higher altitude, that lower percentage of oxygen, right? You're getting used to that, and that is starting to be seen in generations. Like, there are physical changes happening to the body due to these different environmental pressures.
So we haven't
not
stopped
as drastic.
evolving, is
Correct.
What you're saying.
Correct.
We're still going, just in different ways, different times, different speeds.
Exactly. It's not the same evolution that you think of whenever you're thinking of,
I need wings because I need to be higher. I need a tail because I need to swing.
It's not crawling out of the ocean anymore, right?
Yeah.
We're not crawling out of the ocean. We're not going back into it. We're not having to learn to hunt anymore, do these things, but we're still having to adapt and evolve continuously to the changing environment.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's clear that evolution is happening on some levels, despite the fact that natural selection isn't necessarily occurring the same way it used to. So even though we're not hunter and gatherers, even though we're not, fighting off the wolves every day of our lives, we are still evolving. Like, there are still pressures happening in our lives to evolve. This ultimately makes sense because really natural selection is only one method of evolution, right? So there's a lot of other ones that are happening right now that can still cause us to evolve. So, Chris, at the end of the day, I do not think humans have halted our evolution.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, from ancient sharks to immortal crabs, medical dogs to human evolution, we hope you've enjoyed our third Q&A.
Join us for our next episode where we'll be covering symbiotic relationships, the animal kingdom version of some freaky partners.
Oh.
Thanks for listening and stay freaky.